Today, we're covering more previews from Secrets of Strixhaven, specifically talking about some of the rares and mythics that I think are best so far. These are cards you're hoping to open in draft, hoping to open in your pre-releases, so let's dive on in. First up is Emeritus of Ideation. It's 3 blue for a mythic rare, 5/5 human wizard with flying and ward 2, which is already pretty good. Flying and ward 2 for a 5/5 for 5 mana, pretty good. This creature enters prepared, which means you can cast its prepared spell, which is Ancestral Recall. Target player draws 3 cards for a single blue mana at instant speed, and whenever this creature attacks, you may exile 8 cards from your graveyard. If you do, this creature becomes prepared. That's a lot less relevant because just casting Ancestral Recall a single time is going to be absolutely stellar, attached to a 5 mana 5/5 flyer with ward 2. This card is absolutely devastating. It's going to just win the game so many times it's played, and in general there's going to be a lot of value gained by just waiting till you have that extra mana to just play the Ancestral Recall immediately, because if you play this when you have 6 mana, you play this for 5, immediately cast the Ancestral Recall mode to draw 3 cards. Even if your opponent kills the Emeritus of Ideation, those 3 cards are probably going to be enough to win you the game. Whereas if you do cast this for 5 mana, sure, the ward 2 can often protect it, but if your opponent does find a way to kill it, then you don't necessarily end up with a lasting advantage that you would get from playing this and immediately getting to draw the 3 cards. Now, sure, it's going to be really a lot of the times you will end up casting this on turn 5 because you just need the blocker. Maybe you don't necessarily have land 6 lined up. You just want to be able to hit your opponent with a 5/5 flyer. That's another good reason to play this. But if you do have the option to wait that extra turn, maybe you have the land drop in hand already, waiting can be a really beneficial play if you think it's going to be one of those spots where your opponent might be able to kill it, because then you just get the cards anyway, and your opponent's never going to be able to win. It's really hard to win when your opponent gets a 4-for-1 like that. You play a creature and you draw 3 cards. That's just absolutely devastating. A really strong card, and one you're going to want to play pretty much every time you see it. It's just a really, really good card. And if you ever get to attack with it and prepare it and draw the 3 cards again, that's going to be even scary as well. So that's just gravy. Don't even think about that card. Don't think, oh, I don't have cards in my graveyard. Just doing this a single time is enough to win you the game most of the time. Almost every time, in fact. Next up is Professor Delian Fell. It's a really good planeswalker. It's 2 black-green for a 5 loyalty planeswalker. It has +2 gain 3 life, 0 you draw a card and lose 1 life, -3 destroy target creature, and -6 you get an emblem with whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. The general play pattern with this card is going to be you play this, immediately kill one of your opponent's creatures, and then you've kind of got the board clear and you can just either start drawing cards with the 0 ability, or maybe you tick it up one more time so you can -3 it again to destroy another target creature. That can be another pretty good play pattern where you go play Delian Fell, kill your opponent's creature, next turn, tick it up. Next turn, kill another one of your opponent's creatures. That can be really good as well. Or just play it, kill their creature, draw a card, or play it, draw a card, then kill a creature. The first 3 modes are really flexible in how you can use them, depending on whether your opponent has a card you want to kill, whether you just want to start getting value. It's really hard to come out behind with Delian Fell because you're going to at least kill one of your opponent's creatures. So a 4 mana kill spell is already going to be pretty good. And it's a 4 mana kill spell that's going to gain you some amount of life because your opponent has to send attackers at it. So even if you're really far behind, it's going to be able to do that. There are some spots as well where you play Delian Fell +3 it to gain 3 life. Your opponent doesn't have 7 power worth of attackers, so they have to attack it with their creatures. You get to gain more life, so that can really stabilize you as well, buy you some time. But overall, Delian Fell is absolutely fantastic, and it's much more playable than you might think. There's only 5 really main supported archetypes in this set. There's black, green, blue, green, black, green, blue, green, blue, red, red, white, and white, black. And you can splash this card in blue, green quite easily, I think. So a lot of the blue, green decks are also going to be interested in Delian Fell. The black, green decks obviously want it. And I think that black, white decks might even be able to get enough fixing to support splashing this card because it really is super powerful and a really, really strong card. So Delian Fell, definitely one you're going to want to be taking really highly in draft and hoping to open in sealed, and really strongly try to play this if it's in your sealed pool. Real quick before I get to the rest of the sweet cards, I'm doing a group coaching session on April 12th. It's a Sunday, and it's going to be to help you get ready for your Secrets of Strixhaven pre-releases, which are the following weekend. I'll be going through which college you should pick for your sealed pool. I'll be going through cards to look for, to keep an eye out for, cards you should play around during the games, and we'll do a practice build with folks and answering tons of questions during the whole thing. So if you're interested in that, you can find the link in the description down below and in the pinned comment for all of the information. Anyway, let's get back to the rares. Next up is Ral Zarek, Guest Lecturer. It's another really good planeswalker, though I think a little bit worse than Delian Fell, still really good. It's 1 black for a 3 loyalty planeswalker. It has +1, Surveil 2. -1, any number of target players each discard a card. -2, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then -7, flip 5 coins. Target opponent skips their next X turns, where X is the number of coins that came up heads. That's not going to come up as frequently, though if you do it, it is going to be a pretty cool highlight reel moment. Regardless, though, the fact that you can play Ral Zarek, immediately start getting cards with it, means that a lot of the time it's going to be hard for your opponent to your opponent's never going to be able to trade with this without at least having nabbed a card from their hand. So at the very least, it's going to be like a 1-for-1, generally speaking. You play it, you -1, they discard a card, and then if they have some creatures to kill it, or a burn spell to kill it, or something like that, or a removal spell for it, Ral Zarek at least traded with a card from their hand. And maybe if they weren't attacking with a creature, if they use a removal spell on it, that's a 2-for-1. If Ral Zarek can stick around, you can just put a lot of pressure on your opponent. And the fact that it is so cheap to cast, albeit if you are playing a heavy black deck to play it on turn 3, one black means that if you're not playing heavy black deck, sometimes you might not be able to cast it on turn 3. But if you are able to cast it on turn 3, if your opponent doesn't have an early attacker, you're going to be able to get some value from surveilling, so you can just sculpt your draws. If you can play it and immediately -2 it to return a creature to play, then the Ral Zarek is kind of just gravy on top. It's already gotten you a creature back. It's basically been like a 3-mana creature that then sticks around and can get you more value, maybe get more creatures back, make your opponent discard cards. It's really powerful for just 3 mana to just get all of this flexibility, all of these options, and the fact that a lot of the time you're not going to really ever come out behind, because you can just play Ral Zarek, minus it, generally get back a 3-drop, maybe sometimes a 2-drop, or minus it, get a card out of their hand. You can get at least some cards out of this no matter what, and sometimes it can just absolutely take over a game, because you can imagine scenarios where your opponent's playing a slower deck, maybe you're on the play, they don't have a 2-drop, you play Ral Zarek on turn 3 on an empty board, -1, they make them discard a card, next turn -1, make them discard a card, then you can tick up Surveil, and then -1 again, you just destroy their hand, or depending on what you're doing. It's a really nice planeswalker to have access to. Next up is Prismari, the Inspiration. It's 5 blue-red for a 7/7 flying Elder Dragon with Ward, pay 5 life. Instants and sorcery spells you cast have Storm. Now, this one I don't think is quite as powerful as some of the other cards we've talked about, but it is so fun, and it's just going to be such a highlight reel card that I do think it's going to be fantastic to play and build around as well. Regardless, not that you really have to build around it, you're going to have some instants and sorceries in your deck, and playing a 7-mana 7/7 flyer is still going to be a really powerful play in a lot of situations if you're trying to play a late game deck. I just think this card's going to be really fun, and I just wanted to include it because I wanted to talk about it a little bit. Ward, pay 5 life isn't quite the same as Ward, discard a card, because if your opponent is ahead of you and they just kill your guy, paying 5 life isn't necessarily a huge, as big of a cost. Generally, you'd rather have the Ward cost make it a little bit more card advantage wise, Ward, make them discard a card. Sometimes a Ward number like Ward 4 makes it actually really hard for them to cast their removal spells. Paying 5 life is a little bit different than that, but it's still a nice upside to have. And a 7/7 flyer can take over the game. It attacks your opponent twice, and they usually are going to lose that game. But the real fun comes from when you play this card, and then you just get the next turn to just go play a spell, spells can be creatures too. So you play a creature, then play an instant or sorcery, get 2 copies of it, and then you just can do some really fun, cool things, all attached to a 7-mana 7/7 flyer. It's definitely eminently splashable. If you're playing a blue-green deck, you can definitely just splash a Prismari, get that red mana in there, and then just play your Prismari, and then just gets some cool, awesome value plays. And I think this card's going to be really fun, really cool, and win some games in very flashy manners. Next up is Quandrix the Proof. It's a Elder Dragon that I think is a little bit better than Prismari just from a pure power level perspective, and it's just another really fun card to play with. 4 green-blue for a 6/6 flyer with trample. So again, just giant creatures. Don't forget, these cards have these cool abilities, but just being giant flyers is also going to be a pretty relevant part of these cards. And 6 mana is a lot less than 7 mana in limited. It might be oh, just 1 mana, but you don't go up 1 mana every turn in limited generally once you've gotten to those higher mana values. Going from 6 to 7 generally takes a couple of turns, because you're drawing you don't have all of the lands from your opening hand still. You've got to build up to 7 mana, generally speaking. But a 6-drop is a little bit more castable than a 7-drop. Flyer with trample, huge. And then it has Cascade. Whenever you cast this spell, when you cast this spell, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card that costs less. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. Put the exiled cards on the bottom in a random order. So Quandrix the Proof comes in, and you immediately get to cast another spell. So maybe you cast a 3 or 4-drop on average, something like that. Maybe sometimes you'll cast a 2-drop. Let's just say you're casting a 3-drop for the sake of this. You play Quandrix, get a 3-drop, and then instant and sorcery spells you cast from your hand have Cascade. So if you have any instants or sorceries, you're also going to be in great shape. So you play Quandrix, you immediately get another card out of the deal. So your opponent isn't going to be able to kill Quandrix at an advantage. You're always going to have gotten a 3-mana spell out of the deal, which is really, really nice, or 2 mana, but whatever the spell. You got some value out of it. And if you do untap with it, not only do you have the giant flyer that's probably going to win you the game, but casting any other instant or sorcery is probably also going to be fantastic for you. So Quandrix to Proof, a really nice card where it's going to win you the game, but maybe not in as spectacular fashion as a card like Prismari, but winning the game is still winning the game, and Quandrix to Proof definitely does that. Also, it's blue-green, which is often maybe going to be a color combination that splashes more, but definitely eminently splashable. If you're playing a black-green deck, definitely very splashable. That's another key factor with these sorts of cards, is they can be included in a lot of decks. If you're playing blue-red, you might be able to get the fixing to splash this as well. Just nice, powerful top-end card. Next up is Improvisation Capstone. It's 5 red for a sorcery lesson, though being a lesson isn't like a relevant thing in this format because there's not learn cards to go get these out of your sideboard, but still, 5 red for a sorcery lesson. Exile cards from the top of your library until you exile cards with total mana value 4 or greater. You may cast any number of spells from among them without paying their mana cost. So just on the surface, you're getting maybe 4, maybe 5, sometimes even more mana value worth of spells, because imagine you end up in a spot where you play Improvisation Capstone and you immediately exile a 6-drop. You can cast the 6-drop. Or you could exile a 3-drop and then a 6-drop, and then you get 9 mana worth of spells. And obviously, this is kind of fantasy land. There could also be situations where you hit a couple 2-drops, get 4 mana, but it's not just 4 mana. If you exile cards with total mana value 4 or greater, and so that does lead to a lot of scenarios where you can exile like a 3-drop and a 3-drop, or something like that, and you get to not go full. You don't get like pay a 7 mana and get 7 mana worth of spells, but you're still getting like more than 4. Still, Paradigm. It also has Paradigm. Then exile this spell after you first resolve a spell with this name. You may cast a copy of it from exile without paying its mana cost at the beginning of each of your first main phases. So that means that you play your Improvisation Capstone, get your 4, maybe 5, maybe 6 mana value worth of spells, and then the next turn after at the beginning of your first main phase, you get to cast it again. And so you just quickly overwhelm your opponent with card advantage, and the fact that you get to cast them immediately instead of them just going to your hand or something means that you're not only getting card advantage, you're getting mana advantage because you're casting like 5 mana extra worth of spells every single turn. So if you play this on turn 7, not only are you going to get to deploy the extra cards from your hand on following turns, but you're also adding 5 mana worth of spells from your deck to that, and you're going to very quickly snowball the game. In fact, one of the only ways I can imagine losing once you've resolved this spell is first, if you like get a little unlucky, maybe get like a couple 2-drops and your opponent like finishes you off the like very next turn before you get to cast this a second time, or if you like somehow don't have enough like power level in your deck, or you're casting this really late in the game and you somehow deck yourself before you win. Like those are like some of the only scenarios I can imagine losing after having resolved this card, which is a pretty narrow band. And sure, there's like other spots where like maybe you're like a little bit low, your opponent can like maybe force through some damage, they have some really crazy card of their own, but like this card is just absolutely stellar. It's just going to take over the game. You get so much card advantage, so much mana advantage. Being a 7-drop is a bit of a downside, but because like 7-drop, sometimes you don't get to 7 mana, as we already discussed, the gap from 5 to 6 to 7 mana isn't just like one turn in many cases, but this card's just absolutely stellar as a top end card, and one you're going to really want to try to prioritize, especially in sealed or a pre-release where it's a little bit slower of a format. Next up is Conciliator's Duelist. It's white, black, so no splashing for this one, generally speaking. For a 4/3 core warlock, when this creature enters draw a card, each player loses 1 life. So immediately, you're getting a card back out of this. Each player is going to lose a life, but if they do kill the duelist immediately, you've still gotten a card, so you still come out a little bit ahead on the exchange, which is just what you want in these cards. Having a really high floor does make these cards a lot better. And then it has Repartee. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets a creature, exile up to 1 target creature, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So this just gives the card insane amounts of flexibility and value. So if you play, like whenever you cast an instant that targets a creature, it can be a removal spell that targets an opponent's creature. It can be a combat trick that targets your own creature. And then you just get to exile up to 1 target creature. That can be your creature, that can be your opponent's creature. And so you can end up in these scenarios where you play Conciliator's Duelist. The next turn you target your opponent's creature with a removal spell, exile one of their other creatures, and all of a sudden they don't have any blockers and you attack them with all your creatures. Or you can play this when you have a little bit of extra mana up for maybe an instant that targets your own creature, maybe a combat trick or something like that. Your opponent then tries to kill the duelist. You use your combat trick, save duelist, exile it, it comes back, you draw another card, you get some more value, dig through your deck, find more things to target. That's another play pattern as well. Maybe you have another creature that has a good enters effect, and so you can use the duelist, kill one of your opponent's creatures, exile your other creature, your own creature that has a good enters effect, get that value going. Just a lot of flexibility. The fact that you can like cast an instant for sorcery that targets a creature, so that can be your creatures, their creatures, exile up to 1 target creature, that can be your creatures or their creatures, and just you also already get spotted a card when you play this. It's just super, super powerful. It's got a good enters effect, so if you're targeting itself with its ability, you can exile it, it comes back into play, draws you extra cards, makes both players lose another life. Just a really powerful card for a black-white deck that you're going to have things that target creatures, because black-white cares about that as a mechanic, it cares about repartee, but also you're going to have removal spells, and so it's just going to be a really nice thing. It does have to be instants or sorcery removal spells or things like that, but it's just going to be a really strong card and one that you're going to want to be taking really highly, even though it is a little bit narrower. Remember, there are mainly 5 archetypes in this set, so even though it's a multicolored card with a heavy mana requirement, white, black isn't necessarily easy to cast. It is still going to be a card that you get to play like more than in a typical like 10 archetype set, because like white black is 20% of the decks instead of like 10% of the decks. So that's just like twice as likely to make the cut in that world just as well. So keep that in mind. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you get to open these cards in your events. I'm looking forward to opening some of them myself, and I'll talk to you next time.